Hey guys, welcome to session number 32 of the Trailer Music Composers Podcast. One man with one microphone who likes to run to rock music. Welcome to the Trailer Music Composers Podcast. Hey guys, welcome to another session of the Trailer Music Composers Podcast. I've got a really nice one today. It's an interview with one of my students, Simon Haglund. His work is just astoundingly aggressive, and it's just so well produced, and it's so interesting to listen to. He's done some custom work, he's had some placements, so he's doing well for himself, and he's got some really fantastically interesting things to say about the creative process. And I absolutely loved hearing him walk us through his exact process for creating sound design, which I think is one of his strengths, is creating interesting and organic, and for those of you who want to look for this keyword, signature sounds. He records a lot of them using his saxophone and clarinet, but he does it with pretty much anything he can find, and the sounds he produces are nothing short of fascinating. They are beautiful and exactly what you want. They have a signature and they have a character. I can hear his music and I say, oh, that's Simon, without knowing it's his track, because of the way he produces his music. It's fantastic. The interview was so much fun. He's such a nice guy. Now, I hope you enjoy this and get a lot out of it, because it's awesome. I would like to introduce you guys to Simon Haglund. He is an amazing composer, and I'm very privileged to have him as one of my students on the Trailer Music School. Simon, welcome to the Trailer Music Composers Podcast. So honored to have you.
So amazing to be here. I'm so happy that you invited me. I'm really hyped for this one.
Whoop. Okay, so let's just to get things kind of relaxed and easy going, I'll ask you the silly question first. Simon, if you were an instrument, what would you be and why?
That's the toughest question, I guess, for tonight.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I actually thought you were to ask me this, so I gave it some thought in advance, but it turned out to be even harder than I could imagine. But I think I will go with a saxophone, since... Well, I am a saxophone player, so it's kind of, yeah. I guess it's the first thing that comes to mind. But it's also like an instrument that's you need to be really, really patient and have a set goal to be able to like even remotely have it to get sounding even tiny good. You will have like a couple of years when it's just screams and cars and yeah, that sounds terrible the first couple of years, and you can't even play like the most silly melodies on it, but when you get through that, it's like this instrument that's like this very, very human instrument. You use your breath to control the flow through the instrument, and then you have like this technical side of it where you need to be really fast, and yeah, it's also an instrument that's not visual at all. Like if you compare it to the piano, it's really visual, and you can see it and you compare it to the notes and stuff like that. So it's kind of an intimate instrument, and it's also when you like get to speak to other people that plays the saxophone and you get into the jazz terms and stuff like that. It's kind of a really nerdy instrument also. So it all sums up in me, I guess, like. I can be a bit technical. I think I'm kind of good at setting goals for myself and being patient with those goals. And I think I like to be a human for the persons around me. I like a good father and a good friend, and stuff like that's really important for me. And I'm kind of nerdy with all the things that we do, like in the music business. Yeah, so I think that sums it up kind of good.
Simon, I can tell you prepared for that. That was possibly the most detailed answer, and I loved it. My takeaways from that are that it's going to take a good couple of years before I get anything decent out of you. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, probably.
No, amazing. I love the fact that you also talked about something which often isn't mentioned about with instruments, which is like the correlation between what we see and what we hear. You're absolutely right. The piano is, and that's why the piano is so wonderful for orchestrating and for composing, because you can see exactly what you're playing. With a monophonic instrument like the saxophone, and especially one where you're playing the same keys, but the how hard you blow changes the notes that come out. It becomes very abstract.
Yeah.
So you're right.
Yeah,
it's about the relationship, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one of the things that makes it really, really hard to master. But when you like get past the first barriers, it gets even more fun to play and more giving to play also, because it's like a relationship with that instrument. Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Right. Okay. So obviously I know you. Because through the Trailer Music School, but the listeners don't. So please tell everyone about yourself. What's your story, where you are now, and how did you get here?
Yeah, I will try to make it kind of short. I'm happy to be grown up in a family with where I have one big brother and two little sisters, and everyone is playing instruments. And my father played jazz piano for me when we go to sleep. He plays jazz piano until we fell asleep, and so that's what I've grown up with. And my big older brother played the drums, and my two sisters played the cello and the violin. But there wasn't that much of it. Was like classical music and jazz music at home. My father listened a bit to Beatles, but yeah, it was mostly classical and jazz. So when we grew up, my brother chose the drums, so obviously I couldn't choose to play the drums, and I saw this glimmerous thing on the TV one night with my father, and it was the saxophone, so I chose that. So I started playing the saxophone at the age of 7 and played it during the school time, and then I went to high school playing the saxophone, and it was really hard the first couple of years. I tried to stop playing for a couple of times, but my father was like, you should give it one more try. And then I during high school, I met this professor from the college in Malmö, and he really liked my tone and my vibe. So he invited me to come down to him, and I was there for a couple of days, and that was like the spark for me to like, this is what I really want to do. And when at the same time, I got like a CD from, I'm not sure if it was from my father or who it was from, but this was a CD with John Coltrane. And I just put it in and listened to it at home. And I thought it would be like some Duke Ellington or some ordinary jazz stuff. But when I listened to it, it was like another world. So it really inspired me, and that compared with this invitation. So I just kept working at my saxophone and went to college with it. And after a year of college, I realized that no one will ever pay me to play jazz. So then I realized that, all right, either I try to go down this road and continue with it, but even if I succeed, I will be on the road 360 days each year, and I can't be home. I hadn't a family at that time, but I knew that a family would be something that were of big importance for me. So I just choose to, all right, I just quit with all the instruments and all the playing. So I just tried to abruptly just quit everything. And then I became a father at the age of 23, so rather young father. And then it was all with the family. I didn't have time. But then one day I was painting my living room at home, and a friend of mine come by and just we were since I never had time, he was, yes, if you are painting, can't I come by and we can talk to each other for a couple of hours. And he put on some music, and it was Skrillex, this
The DJ.
yeah, exactly. And it was like when I was younger and listened to John Coltrane for the first time, it would just blow me away, the soundscapes and the grittiness and the synths and everything. And I have played a little bit with like Reason earlier, and I started to do that again when I put the kids to sleep during night. I just went to my computer and starting to fiddle around, and one thing led to the other, and I went back to college one more time to a music production course I took there, and then after that there was also one third time where I listened to something that just blew my mind, and it was during this college time I listened to Hans Zimmer's Batman score. And that was once again this soundscapes and the depth of the production and the darkness and the grittiness. So it's and then I started to like dig deeper into that, and what are people writing like now. And then I found Daniel Bwaams on YouTube, I think, and I realized he was a Swedish guy, so I just sent him an email, and we started chatting, and he basically put out a course at the time where he teaches trailer stuff, and it was through that course I got into the business more or less. So after that I got in touch with a couple of publishers, and then I heard about like Elephant Music, and I started to listen to that music, and then I heard like someone called Richard Schreiber, and I dug into that music, and that led me here, I guess.
Fab. So taking a few steps back, it was Trailer Music Academy. That was his course, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that's
Trailer Music Mastery.
Yes, that's the one.
That's the one. Yeah. Okay. No, that's fantastic to hear that you got results from there. So have you had any placements since then, or?
Yeah, I did a custom work for Ubisoft for the Division release, and so that was my first and only custom work that I have done, and it got placed with them. And after that, I have some TV placements here and there, but not a big sync for any more trailers since then.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm just painting the picture. So you've got obviously you've got huge knowledge from studying jazz. I mean, it's just such a wonderful foundation for music, right? Especially music production, because a lot of us going into music production have minimal theoretical knowledge past sort of diatonic scales, really, or that type of thing. So having that jazz knowledge behind you must have been so like wonderful when you sat down at your computer and were starting to write trailer music. Now, did you apply that jazz knowledge in your trailer music, or was it just something that maybe the orchestration came out, or was it the rhythms? Was it the chord extensions? What was it that came out? Did any jazz stuff come through in your trailer music?
Yeah, but I don't think it was in like the arrangement or the orchestration or even harmonics, but the energy from it. And that was what I always loved about, since like I didn't get hooked by jazz by listening to Duke Ellington and his amazing arrangements and orchestrations. I got hooked by John Coltrane and his like high level energy, and it just builds and builds and builds and builds and builds and builds and builds. And if you listen to like freeform jazz like Ornette Coleman, it's just like this chaos of sounds, and then it's like molding into like this amazing beautiful melodies and harmonies inside that chaos. And so I think I that's the stuff that I take with me into the production, and and in the training music, because when we do like horror stuff, I mean it's one tone through the whole track, and it's just that energy and the build of energy and how you create those rising tension and stuff like that.
See, I love how you describe John Coltrane's music, because like that's almost word for word how I would describe your music. So Simon's music, everybody, is absolutely phenomenally intense. It's got so much power and punch and weight. It's forgive me saying for this, it's incredibly aggressive to listen to, but I love that about it. Like, I can give Simon like a brief that's very, actually quite like an uplifting brief, but he takes that intensity and puts it on, like, even if it's just like a sort of, oh, this is an uplifting pizzicato thing, he's just like, rah, just chucks this intensity at it. And I love that about your music. And I really like how you described actually taking that intensity and putting it into your music. So the thing I always am very interested with people's stories is how they go from learning about something to then going to do it. So you say that you approached a couple of publishers. Now I never had any luck approaching publishers off the bat. So, what was your process to kind of take it to the next level? Obviously you'd done the Trailer Music Academy or Mastery. That course. I'm sorry. You've done that course. Now, what was your thinking? How did you go, okay, well, how am I going to take this to the next step? Because you have taken it to the next step. You've got placements, you've done custom, you've got music out there, and that's a really big step for a lot of people. So walk us through that in a bit more detail.
Well, I think one thing that made it a little bit easier for me was that when I not was in college or high school, after that time, I worked a couple of years or really many years in sales in different ways. So it has never been like an obstacle for me to like contact people or try to overall just contact people. And I was like this. I had invested some money in this course, and I wanted to make something of it. So there are a lot of great groups on Facebook. So I think for the first time I was to like send an email to a publisher, I actually posted my full mail in the group and just asked the other ones there, what do you think about this? Is that okay? And I got some good pointers about that and changed a couple of stuff. And I mean, this is, I guess that can be a bit scary for a lot of us, and it was scary for me too. To just, I mean, I'm not a writer in any way, and it's kind of, it could be like an intimate thing what your email is about and stuff like that. But I think it's a good way to just, I mean, the people there have a great knowledge, so why don't like ask them? And everyone is happy to help, and I am happy to help anyone else that comes to me. So why don't like, why can't we just try to make it better for everyone? So then I sent a couple of mails to the publisher that I wanted to work with, not the ones that I thought could fit me. It was more like I like what they do. They seem to have a lot of placements. I want to work with them. So I chose like a couple of ones. And then it was like this long wait, and I didn't heard anything back, and didn't heard anything back, and didn't heard anything back. And then I sent like a reminder, and then I got one hook, and then it starts to like roll from there. And then like I'm trying to network with the composers around me, and then all of a sudden some composers ask, well, I'm working for this production label, and I actually want a new composer, but they don't they just want some of us to like reference. So if you're up for it, they would like to listen to your music. So I sent a couple of tracks over to them, and then they liked it, and then I started to work for them. And yeah, so it's just like networking and try to be. I just try to be helpful and try, even though I don't have that much time. I can't sit in my studio 8 hours each day because I have the day job, and I have 3 kids now, and everything it goes. It's a lot going on, but try to be nice, try to like network with everyone, and then I think one thing that was like this goal for me was like, don't say yes to a publisher just because the publisher asks me to work for them, because if I write a solo album or a couple of tracks for a publisher and they don't work with my tracks, then I have worked basically for free. Nothing would happen with that. So I made research on the labels that I really wanted to work with, and then I like if I didn't get a response, then I tried to reach them in another way, try to find who's in charge, can I contact that person directly, and so try to like find my way around.
Awesome. I really enjoy hearing about that part of the process, because actually the learning, the education is the fun stuff that we all kind of go naturally towards, playing, producing, making sounds, making music. But when it comes to the business side, or actually I like to call it the relationship side, we all shy away from it. And actually the thing I've noticed is those people who have made a success or made that first step into a publisher, or gotten to a milestone, have done it through relationships. Do you want to pick up, was it Cody's group, the Trailer Music Composers Support Group, that you posted on the email on?
Well, no, actually, it was that course, the Trailer Music Mastery.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, they've got a private Facebook group.
Yeah, they had their own group, and I guess they have it still. So I posted it there.
Awesome. Okay. Yeah. Please. Yeah. That's the other thing is building relationship with other composers, because actually you're still doing that to this day. And I believe you collaborated with Andrew Skipper on his Ascendance instrument. Is that right? Yeah.
And there's new stuff coming out pretty soon too.
Exciting.
And I mean that is also opportunities that I have never gotten if I hadn't tried to build those relationships. And since I live in Sweden and I will not move from Sweden, and I basically live in this little house out in the woods, it's through networking through internet. That's my my only channel.
Yeah.
So and that is also one more thing about like communication via text messages, like emails or messenger or whatever. It's so easy to misunderstand each other, and so just I think it's good like thinking best of each other is a really good point. And trying to be patient, because everyone is really busy everywhere, and
they're valuable life lessons there, especially with the proliferation of text messages and written communication. I mean, that's why I love GIFs and I love emojis, because if you send a text message that could be misconstrued as a negative thing, send a smiley face.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, that's it. Yeah. No, I completely agree with that. And also patience is a huge thing. And you've already go on.
No, it just, it doesn't mean that then someone like hates your music that only because they haven't responded to you in 24 hours. But the other side of that is, as you speak about a lot, the inner critic, because you get these thoughts in your head when you don't get that response soon enough, and you start to question yourself. He didn't answer me immediately. That must mean that he didn't like that, and I should listen to it again, and then I should compare it with someone else, and then it's like a snowball of like evil thoughts. So Yeah, it's tough sometimes. Absolutely.
It is, yeah. Especially as you've already said, I mean, you're kind of navigating on your own, and the only way I have it too, the only way I generally contact anyone is over the internet.
Yeah.
So there is a lot of waiting in between things.
Yeah.
And I was speaking to another student recently about, the process of once you've got to that point where you've air quotes made it, and you're producing regularly and you're getting placements, there is still that waiting game.
Yeah.
You send an album out, you might not get a placement for a year.
Yeah.
Or you do a custom, you might not hear anything for ages. Are you even when you've got to the point where, I'm a success, you still have to wait. So patience, and also working with those inner expectations is just a tool that you need to keep using and keep improving on. But anyway, I would like to dive in. This is the thing I'm most excited about, Simon, is your creative process. You've kind of touched on it a little bit by mentioning reason, and obviously the fact that you're a saxophonist and you've got a jazz background, and that you're inspired by Skrillex. So you've got this kind of like these two worlds. Now, I'm so fascinated by how you produce your sounds. So listeners, I've heard quite a lot of Simon's music, and Simon's music, it's the type of music I hear that and go, how did he make that sound? And I'll say, oh, which drums do you use? And he uses the same drums as me. And I'm like, but how did you make them sound that big? I'm so interested by your creative process. So walk us through, the listener. The brief is, Simon, you're going to be doing an action sound design cue. 2 minutes 20. What is your creative process for that track?
That's a good one. If I have any brief tracks, or reference tracks, I will probably go in and have a quick listen to them and just see if like something that really grabs my attention. And usually that's the sound design in my case. And try to catch the vibe, what the publisher is going for. But I usually try to start with what in my mind will be like the signature of the track, and that could be like a rhythm, and it could be a strange Bwaams sound, and so what just jamming around and trying to get this first seed of an idea, and after that I do what you do, like sketching out the track, and that I usually just do it like in my DAW, like just writing up. Okay, since I have this idea, it's like an 8-bar stuff loop, for example. Then I try to, does this feel like the second act, or is this like the third act, or am I in the first act? Because it could be one of those, just the first thoughts in my head. And then I just try to structure out the track around that idea, just to get like the full picture of it. And then usually I try to like build on that idea, and I have like this idea of every part of the every like track in the full track should evolve and carry its own weight. So if I'm I decide that this signature part is in the second act, then it needs to be able to get bigger in the third, and it needs to be smaller in the first. So can I do that? And then I try to work my way from there. And that's if I have like a brief, as you said now. If I have when I do like just doing sound design stuff, I use a lot of resampling. I'm not. Should I go into this now? Should I wait?
Oh yes, you should go.
All right. So if I like, I'm doing a Bwaams sound, for example. I record a bunch of clarinets and saxophones or whatever I found in my collection in my house. And then when I like done a lot of samples, and then I just browse through them and choose one that like grabs my attention, do something with me. All right, I take you, and then I just have that like a track, and like the first sample, and like I call it original sample, and then I just copy that, and then I start to try to like doing cleaning up of that sample to just have it okay. This sounds okay, like a first version, and like just cutting it, editing it, so it's kind of nice. And then I do another copy of that, and then I usually just pitch it down a lot, and then I start doing some just experiments with it, and just I try to like use it like almost like a clay. Like you can bend it and stretch it and turn it. You can like time stretch it like 24 times, and just bounce that one more time and use like a snippet of it, and what happened then. And because I always have that original sound on top of that. So if I want to, I went too far, this just turned to mush, then I just delete that and go back to original, and then I can go continue. And then that creative like experimental phase is over, and I find, oh, this sound is really great. Then I make another copy of that, and then it's almost like, okay, I have made my first sound in the full symphonic orchestra. I have made the violin now. And then I need to make like the violas, the cellos, and the basses beneath that. So I fill it up, so I have the full range of that sound. And when I do that, it's also like I use filters. I use distortion if I need more high end. I pitch it down. I compress the pitch down part a lot, for example. And then I have like 4 layers of that sound. Then I have the strings in the symphonic orchestra. Right now I need another layer of that. So I take that full layer and make a resample of that one, and then I have the strings, air quotes, the strings. So I have one sound there, and then I take that full sound and keep that as an original and make a copy of that, and then I start to pitch that one down, or try to pitch it up, or try to experiment the same way as I did the first time with the first original. So I keep this as a new, and then I just continue to do this, and what. Because the sounds get more and more dense and more wider, and yeah, it gets more of everything. At one time, I realized that, oh right, I have gone too far. I need to like step a couple of ways back, or I got like sidetracked and I realized, oh right, everything is in mono. Oh right, I need to like fix the wideness, or it's too harsh, or whatever. And then I can always go back, because I keep all the steps, because I knew to make resampling of it inside the door, and yeah, I can go back and I can. So it's a big experiment, but I have like a clear process, and I have this idea of it's, if it's one sound that should like take the full spectra and the full stereo wide spectra also, then it needs to feel like a full symphonic orchestra that plays with every instrument at the same time. You need the aggression from the drums, you need the fullness of the brass, and you need the top from the strings. You need everything in that sound. Then I try to imagine that and try to do it but with that, only that single sound to begin with.
See, that sounds so much fun.
Yeah, it's incredibly fun. I use a lot of like free VSTs and stuff, because they do some things. You can find the most strange things they do, and you can keep that like, all right, I just need like a strange bend stuff here. Yeah, I can use this. I know there's a guy called Norris. He released like 20 free VSTs, and they make really strange stuff, all of them. And you can't, like, you probably could, but I use like 10% of one of them, and it creates like this character to the sound that I haven't heard before, and just trying out that stuff. And all right, that didn't work. All right, I try something that I really used to know how that works, and it's just like a big fun experiment. But I have this set goal what I'm trying to do, and I have this imaginative picture of what it should sound like when I'm done. And then it, of course, that could change during the process. If I found out that, all right, if I pitch this sound up like a one semitone after the first impact, it sounds amazing. Yeah, okay, then it's the imaginative picture in my head just changed to, all right, this is more of a bend sound more than this aggressive Bwaams sound, for example.
So this is just so cool. And I've got a couple of questions about this, because I've kind of got a picture of how I would interpret what you're doing, because I think I do a similar thing, but I want to clarify. So what store are you in? Is it?
I'm in Ableton Live.
Oh, mate.
Yeah.
It's perfect. So you're in the perfect door for that type of mangling, right?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. I do a lot of parallel processing. Since I only want to use like 10%, as I mentioned, then it's really easy to work like this really, really long chains of effects and stuff and the resampling and stuff in Ableton.
Okay, so I think you've kind of answered my question, but I want to get it just clarified. So you load in the original sample. Is the original sample on its own channel?
Yeah.
So every time you do a resampling, does that then become a new audio file on a separate channel?
Yeah.
So by the end of this, although you mentioned that you'd have the 5 string sections, the violins, violas, cellos, basses, violin 2s, violin 1s, would you have, in the lead up to getting those 5, mock string sounds, surely you'd have like 10, 20 different samples above that on separate audio channels?
Yeah, one sound of 5 seconds can be often like 30, 40 or 50 tracks down the line. Then when I'm done, that's the final processed sound. That's 50 channels down, usually.
Dude, so what you're doing essentially every time you do a brief is you're creating an entire sample library.
Yeah,
in effect.
I might not go this far when I'm doing a track, because this is like this process is just when I'm doing like a sound design session for myself, or for a publisher when I just do sound design. But I keep those sounds, and the one more or one interesting stuff. Thing about doing those processes that it's so small details that can like make it or break it on that sound, and it's kind of hard to hear those small details when you first pick that first sample, because it could be something in the tail of the whatever I hit, or the saxophone that I play. There's some hiss in or something in the tail that is really, really hard to get rid of. And when you have processed that like 30 times already, and you compressed it and you limited it and you clipped it and you distorted it, all the small details, they can bring out something really amazing, really beautiful, but it can also like kill the sound. But it in my experience, at least, is that you get really into the details of everything, and this is like on a, what you say, like a micron level, and then when you can put that, you can use that knowledge when you go to the full track, because it's the same thing. I mean, if I create like a whoosh hit, you need the whoosh, the act 1, and you need the big hit. I made it's second act 2, for example, and then you have the tail, the third act. You have all the parts of this sound you in a full track also, and you can and when you take that knowledge into like mixing, you also get really aware of the clash of different frequencies when you start to layer so much stuff on top of each other. And you do that when you make like a hybrid track. You have the full symphonic orchestra, or the strings and the brass, and then you have a lot of like synths, and then you have all the drums, and then you have all the hits, and then you have all the rises, and it's so dense. So you can use the same knowledge when you mix and produce and orchestra your tracks also. So to me, it's really it's good to just practice mixing and producing also.
Big time. I think the nice thing that you talked about is approaching it. You're essentially approaching it in 4-part harmony, which I like.
Yeah.
Because actually, often people say to me, Rich, I'm a guitarist. I don't know how to write for an orchestra. And I say, yes, you do. You're a guitarist. We're all doing the same things. There are essentially 4 parts to everything we're doing, really. Even if you whittle it down to the absolute basics of a guitar, a lot of our guitar playing, which is 1st, 5th octave, and then, I don't know, a 3rd or another note, maybe even a 9th if we're getting crazy.
Yeah.
And it's the same with drums. Drums, if you think about drums in 4-part harmony, when you write rhythms, it makes everything fall into place.
Absolutely.
And yeah, I love that you've gone in, sound design, 4-part harmony. Love that. It's great.
Yeah, but it's, as you say, it just makes it easier for me. Because if I usually if I load up some sound design contact stuff or anything, I feel like I'm missing that. I'm missing the mid part of this ping sound or whatever. And if you then have that knowledge when you have the full track and you want it to evolve over time, and you start with this high ping sound, it's the usual trailer ping sound, but then you want that to be a part of the full track, but you can't have that like ping sound in the 3rd act. Yeah, then you know how to process this. You can like pitch it down 24 semitones, and you can resample that, and then you can cut off all the highs and all the lows, and then distort it and then compress it, and then you have like a Bwaams sound, but it's the same sound as you had in Act 1. So it feels organic, it feels cohesive through the whole track, but you just use the same sounds because you have the knowledge to do that, and you can do it really, really fast. And that it's this, like you, as you say, it makes it easier. It's something missing in the 3rd act. What's missing? Yeah, I missed that. All right, I can use that to create that, and I don't have to go search in a library somewhere or try to load up a new contact instrument or anything. I can use what I already have, because that's what I do all the time when I create sound design.
So yeah, also you're just coming up with so many great points here, Simon. I love the fact that you're, a lot of the times I'll say to you, hey, Simon, how did you get that sound? You'll say, oh, it was my saxophone. Oh, it was my clarinet. I just love that, because we're all suffering from we don't have the latest sample library constantly. We all think, oh, maybe this drum library is going to make me a better writer. Maybe this string library is going to make my strings sound better. And yeah, they might sound it a little bit, but actually, if you can take the things that you have around you, and as you say, okay, well, I've only got a guitar, so maybe if I can try and make my guitar sound like a string orchestra, how do I do that? And then all of a sudden you start to develop your own sound. And I think you have that completely. From all the varieties of music I've heard you write, it's like I could blindfold myself and go, oh, this is Simon. Because of the and your process, you explaining your process makes that so clear, which is lovely. Now, we talked a little bit about the barriers before, when specifically the inner critic, but as a composer and a trailer composer, what creative barriers do you think that you have, or do you think there are commonalities between all of us?
I think the inner critic is a big one. It's for sure one for me, and it comes up in this, like often when I'm finishing up a cue, for example, and I'm in the mix phase or just sending it. I'm just about to send it off, and the inner critic like hits me. Is this even good anymore? Is this like? Why should I even bother? Have I gone too far? Have I? And all these questions, and it's almost like all right, I just need to hit the send button now, and it's then I will have to take the feedback or the critics from the publisher. But it's a really big one for me, and also it's we talked about about patience earlier. That's also a tough one, I think, for a lot of us. Just waiting for the placements. I mean, it can take, as you said, like a year even for an established composer. To get the placement, you can have like dry seasons for a year or even longer, and waiting for answers and waiting. But so those one are tough. And then I've done my first 2 solo albums this year, and
congratulations.
Yeah, thanks. And it was so much fun to like get the opportunity to make a solo album, and someone believes in me, and I will just bam, this is so awesome. And you make 6 or 7 tracks, and then you hit the brick wall. All right, what the hell should I do now? I have made 7 tracks, and they have the kind of same character, and they feel cohesive. But what can I do now? To like it needs to like fit the same frame, but I need to come up with something new. So what I did actually for both those albums was I heard about this choir composer Whittaker.
Eric Whittaker.
Yeah, exactly. And he described his process where he didn't he imagined the full track before he even wrote down a single note, and what was it all about. So he could like paint a drawing or like sketched out things, but no, he didn't put down one note. And I thought it was absolutely beautiful, and I used that technique in both those situations. And so I made like, all right, I have 7 tracks here. They have this kind of feeling. Okay, if I were to like, instead of writing a new track, I will tell a story. What would that story be? All right, it's this man who is he will just get hanged in a couple of minutes, and his thought process from when he leaves the cell until he actually dies. All right, that's the story I will try to tell, and I can rest. I like wrote down like a couple of sentences that I just thought this might be the first act. He might remember something about his kids. Or and in the second act, all right, it's like this crowd shouting at him when he approaches what it's called when you get hanged, the
noose.
Yeah, noose. Yeah. And then when the third act is actually when he dies. And then it just became so clear because I had like this palette of sounds from the 7 or 6 tracks before, and I have this story. Then it was so easy to just do the tracks. And then for the 8 track, I did the same thing, and it was another story, but it was the same palette of sounds. So I used that again, and then it was all of a sudden it was just done. So that was like it was really amazing to find that new technique to get past the barrier, and I thought to myself, I will do this every time. But a lot of times I just sit down and I just feel creative, and I just have all of these ideas, and I realize after I have sketched out the full track, I should have done the storyline, but it wasn't needed. So yeah, so I kind of I use that when I don't really know what direction I want to go, or if I just hit the brick wall and I don't know what to do with that. But it's something that it sounds kind of weird, I guess, but it really works for me at least. And I think when I hear those tracks now, I don't remember the stories, but when I hear the track, that was that's that story. Or that's the Army of the Dead. That's that story. So I can hear the story when I listen to the track now. So it's kind of a cool experience also to try to do that, I guess.
So yeah, I absolutely love that for many, many reasons. The first one is the contemporary composer Ligeti. He used to sit down with a stopwatch, close his eyes, start the stopwatch, and imagine the music that he was going to write similarly. And then when he'd finished, he'd stop it and he'd know how long the piece of music was going to be, and then he'd write it.
So cool.
Yeah. Well, no, but the thing is, what you're saying is actually you're kind of tapping in to an imagined trailer, aren't you? You're kind of going, okay, let's picture what trailer I am writing for. And I've really, really liked that, because what you do when you think about the story is you tap into the emotions, don't you? Over and above the details, it's the emotions that you're communicating. And I think that's what comes across in the music. You know, the emotion is what people connect to. So when you can picture that, it's a beautiful thing. And the third one is what you're kind of essentially saying is before you start making noise, you sit down in silence and let the ideas come in.
Yeah.
And I think that's it. Oftentimes I have the same thing. I'll sit down to write a piece of music and I've got the intention of writing, but there's so much noise in my head. There's so much expectation on my shoulders that nothing comes out. So sometimes, like you said, the best thing is silence and to sit there and just breathe. And then it's like the fog disperses. So yeah, I love that.
And I actually tried to, because this was a horror album. I think you know what album it was. Mm-hmm. But I tried to use a situation that I felt kind of scared in. So I remember one night when I was out with our little daughter, had a hard time sleeping. So I took her in the baby carrier and just walked out. We have walked out in the woods here. And it was kind of scary. It was dark, and it was like this hissing in the sound in the trees and stuff like that. And I feel, all right, is it someone coming here? And I just realized this is scary. This I just write down what am I afraid of. All right, I am afraid of. It would be really scary if a monster come down here or whatever it was. And just use that. And when I got back home into the studio, I have this little story about when I felt scared. And then I could just sit down and write a track. And it was so easy because that was my own true feelings that I just have been written down. And then I tried to convert them into a track. But it became kind of scary. And it was really fitting for that album, I think. So it's somehow something someone or sometimes I doing the dishes or whatever. Just this idea comes and I just try to write it down in the phone, and then I have that new track when I sit down. It's just to fill out the blanks in the door. It's not a blank paper that stares at me. It's just this is so easy. It's just to like, but yeah. I'm not sure if it works for everyone, but it's something that worked for me at least.
Yeah, I think the thing is, as composers, and especially when there are expectations on your shoulders, you need to have tools to tap into inspiration, or as you say, to break the brick wall. And sometimes the tools are doing the mundane things like washing the dishes. Like sometimes if you sit down and nothing's happening, go and hoover the upstairs,
Yeah. Yeah,
go
absolutely.
go sweep the front yard, and all of a sudden you'll go, wait, here's an idea.
Yeah.
Because you let it in, and it's just lovely.
But you really need to listen to when that idea arrives. It's the same with sound design. I realized that I listen to all kinds of sound. I played with my daughter in the kitchen on the floor last night, and there was so much amazing noise. It was like the thermos when you hit it to like be able to tap out coffee. And I have used that thermos for like 1,000. Yeah. But it like, and I have used it like thousands of times. I have never thought about the sound. So, and I think it's the same thing with the ideas or the, you have some troubles or some stuff in your life that you're thinking about. All right, that might be your next track. So I think it's all around us, but you need to like listen to that voice or that idea or that sound or whatever it was, and that can be kind of tough sometimes also to just notice that and be in that moment and listen to, oh, that's an amazing sound, or that's a story for a new track or whatever it is.
Yeah, and in fact, funnily enough, we were talking about this before I hit record about those moments when you find an amazing sound and you kind of go, well, I'm with the family right now. How can I get my Zoom recorder and record this?
Yeah. I did it at work one time. I need to find a time where the post office part of our office was empty, so I can go in there and record the big stample machine that they have. It makes this amazing sound, but I couldn't do it with my colleagues around. So no. Yeah, we are kind of nerdy, I guess.
Yeah, big time. I think that's the nice thing, and I think I'm getting so much enjoyment myself, and also the listeners are getting so much enjoyment from this podcast because it's so niche. And the nice thing is, we were talking about this earlier, weren't we? Like the fact that we can talk about risers, and everyone listening is going, "Oh yeah, love a riser,"
Yeah.
And everyone can, I'm sure, everyone can relate to those moments when something happens at work, at home, wherever you are, and you hear a noise, and you go, "That was an amazing noise." Whether you use that as inspiration, whether you actually record it or not, it's different. I did an interview with Andrew Skipper, and obviously he's, recording his bushes, recording, snapping twigs all over the shop. And I think this is the nice thing. Actually, trailer composers are very interested, especially I think those of us who are interested in the sound design aspects of trailer stuff are very interested in the sounds that surround us. And we're all huge nerds. We just want to record someone flicking through a book or using a stapler and then put it into Logic or Ableton, and then, like you say, set this channel of huge effects chains, and it's just yeah.
But I also think that a lot of us share this commonality of like have a background in fantasy. I played R&B for role games, and I loved like Marvel fantasy books when I was younger and stuff like that. And I have this idea. I don't know if it's true or not, but I have this idea that you have like trained your imagination over the years, because you read all the stories and you paint all the pictures in your head about dragons or trolls or whatever. Because when I hear a sound, I can say, "Oh, that's an amazing sound." And my girlfriend, "What? That's not an amazing. That is a dishwasher. You hear it every day. It's not an amazing sound." And I was, "Oh, but if you pitch it down and you like cut up all the highs and you like run it through this gigantic reverb, then you have an amazing sound." So you have this, like, you can take it like a couple of steps in your head and you paint this picture of this, what this could be. And I do this, I notice I do it all the time, and I just assume that everyone does it. I mean, cracking some nuts, oh, that's some ribs been smashed. But it's really not. But it's in my head, I could use that for like that situation, for example. I think that's a really important part, just about sound design at least, just to be able to let the imagination run wild and just, all right, I have this idea, and what can I do with it, and just realize that all these ideas are floating around in your head. It's just to grab them. Oh, that's when you open that door. Oh, that's amazing. I was in the cellar putting down some stuff for the gardening earlier this year, or earlier today, and shut the door. And I have shut the door a lot of times, but I just realized, oh, that's an amazing sound. If I just cut the tail of it, because it was kind of the tail wouldn't work, but I could use that, and just it's a little bit about being in that moment and just listen to what surrounds us, I think, and use the imagination.
Oh yeah, I can't tell you how many times we've been, me and my family have been in like a car park or a hotel stairway, and somebody slams a door, and obviously you've got this like 8-second, 10-second reverb.
Yeah. Amazing.
And I'm like, guys, be quiet. I've got to get my iPhone out.
Yeah.
Slam the door. Yeah, no, but the wonderful thing about those situations, you're right, it's about being in the situation where you're like engulfed by the actual vibrations of the sound, and that's the exciting thing.
Yeah.
I mean, you say a lot of it is for sound design, but the thing is, most trailer composers are in this for, I would say, hybrid trailer music. And you have to approach orchestral trailer music with a sound designer's mentality. That's the way I visualize hybrid trailer writing. It's like, it's not just synths and orchestra. It's the combination of sound design and orchestra. And actually, you know what? If you want to make this sound like a really wicked hybrid track, maybe you take that cello part and maybe that is Simon's original source audio. And maybe that is the thing that you then resample tons of times, because then you can take that and use that to sculpt the whole track. You know, maybe you start it with the original sample, but then the original sample gets mangled and layered with the lower end. Oh, yeah, it's just endlessly exciting.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, we're such nerds.
But it maybe we should just embrace that and just have that to our as a benefit for us.
Yep. Well, I think we are. We're doing. You know, we are doing the thing, and that's one of the reasons I wanted to do this podcast, to embrace my nerdiness.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's kind of cool that it was also something that we are chatting, me and my girlfriend, over dinner for a couple of weeks ago, and she was just telling me in my face, but you are a nerd, Simon. And then it was, yeah, maybe I am, but that might not be a bad thing then, because I like this part of me, I guess.
Wear it with a badge of honor, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm a nerd and I'm proud.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think the thing is, like, it's all about enjoyment, and if you just get the enjoyment out of this type, if this is the thing that gets your fires going, then do it. Doesn't matter what everyone else says, just do it, and that's the important thing, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think also what you say a lot in the course and in the group calls, like, do what like brings the emotion for you, because that will shine through the music that you do. I really think that's true. Absolutely, 100%.
Well, it's really nice for me because, you know, obviously I've spent so many years being the composer, so being on the other side where I'm hearing other composers work so regularly, I really hear it when they have put that emotion in, or it's like or they've really enjoyed writing it. It's like you can feel their excitement when you're listening to it. It's just lovely. It's lovely. And I try and remember that now when I sit down and write. I'm like, okay, remember that. I know this already, but sometimes I forget. I need to feel excited by this. I know it's my job, but I need to find, and it's not necessarily like, sometimes I'll get a brief that doesn't necessarily resonate with me. But as you said, you get the brief, you find an aspect of that brief that gets you excited.
Yeah.
Because then that energy will go into your music, and then it will go out to the publisher, and yeah.
Yeah, and then I think that what you mentioned earlier also, like you have heard a couple of different genres from me, but it always sounds like Simon. And then it's when you get that part of the brief that excites you, and you make your own stuff of that. You need to, of course, keep the brief in mind always, of course. But then it's your voice out there, and I think that's important because it's like a business part of that also, because if you get out there and an editor finds your music and, oh, this is amazing, I really like this stuff, and I put it in this trailer, and then the next time they will do some work, all right, I really liked Richard's sounds. Does he have anything more from that publisher? And he contacts the publisher, and here's Richard's stuff. And when he listened to it, well, nothing of that was what I thought it was, because it wasn't the same voice that shined through all those tracks. But if you keep your signature sound, air quotes, or your voice in your track, or your excitement in your tracks, then the editor will continue to work with you and choose your music over others because they like your voice. And I think that's an important part of it also. And it's just easier to work because we are doing so many tracks each month, all the time. And if you don't do what you like to do, it will not be sustainable, in my opinion. I don't think you can do something that you don't really like over time. And especially when you send it off and you don't get a response, and then you don't get the placement, and then it's just, why should I continue do something that I don't like, that it doesn't give me anything back at all? Then you will just eventually quit, I think. So I think it's from both sides. It's good to just find the excitement of it first, I guess.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Back in the days when I used to do corporate films, they were my paid jobs as a composer. So I'd get back from my day job and I'd do corporate jobs. And at first it was exciting because it was like, I'm being paid to write music. This is pretty cool. But then obviously I was with corporate, the creative realms to maneuver are very slim. You're basically just kind of trying to rip off Coldplay constantly. And after a couple of years of doing, not ripping off Coldplay, but after a couple of years of doing corporate stuff, I just wasn't enjoying it. And as a result, the work I produced was worse quality. It wasn't as good, and my reputation then started to precede me that my work wasn't as good. I stopped getting as much work because I lost the excitement.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until trailer music came into my life that the excitement was reborn. So yeah, I completely agree. The excitement and enjoyment. I mean, I always hammer on about this anyway, but hearing someone else say it just is like, yay, I agree.
Yeah, but because we are self-employed and we need to look after ourselves, like every aspect of it, the business side, the creative side, but also the sustainable and you need to be able to go to work each day. If you're employed somewhere and you don't like it that much, but it's good salary, and I can do it, I can drag it out. You can probably do it over a year. You might not be the happiest guy around, but it might be something that you could do. And someone else tells you what you're supposed to do that. Now you're supposed to do that, and you get the monthly salary and everything. But when you're self-employed, none of that is true anymore, and you need to you really need to find like a sustainable way in your career. I think.
I completely agree. And rather than hammering on about that same point, which I would happily do for ages, because I think it's It's so important. I think we'll move on to before the quickfire round. We'll move on to, this is like, I think you've already given so many wonderful pieces of advice here, but I want you to give advice to people who want to get into trailer music. What would be your advice for people getting into the business of trailer music?
That's a good one. I think a course is, and your course are amazing, but a course overall, and maybe not. I think the best part of the course is the community, because you get peers around you that you can talk to, and you can evolve together, and you can give feedback to one each other, and you can also like share the difficult moments when you don't get any responses and everything. So you get like just the feeling that, all right, there are a lot of other composers and people around you that share the same experiences that you do, so you're not alone, because it's a like cutting edge business. It's really tough, and you also get, of course, in the course you get like this foundation of what it is, what it's all about, and then I think it's, when you have a track, send it out. Just send it out. Nothing can happen. It's scary as, yeah, it's so freaking scary, because you don't know, is this good, is this not good? This is a genre I have never worked with before, but just send it out, and everyone will be happy that you were the first guy that sent it out. Or if you send it to one person, that person will be happy. Oh, he sent it to me, and I feel that I can give something back, because I feel kind of important, because he trusts me with my feedback. So just send it in the group, send it to a person, whatever. Just send it out and get it back, because it's so easy to get sidetracked if this is good, and then in the critic comes, and then you start to like going in circles, and you overproduce it, and you don't sleep, and yeah. So send it out, get some feedback, get a break from that track at least, and come back to that a couple of days later or something, and you continue with it. Talking about fear, I think that's the same thing in your DAW when you start to produce stuff, and especially when it comes to sound design. Sometimes it's almost like I feel when I tried to help out my stepfather with some basic computer knowledge, and he was so frightened to, if I hit this button, will the computer be broken? No, it's just the console button. It's nothing to be worried about. And that's the thing in your DAW. It's almost impossible to destroy the sound, and if you done that, then it's a good thing, because then you know the limit of that sound, and just go a couple of steps back and see what happened. What happened? How did I destroy the sound, and what happened during the process? And just push the boundaries of that, I think, and just be playful with it, and the DAW will not be broken, and the sound will not be broken. So I think it's a lot of, I talk about a lot of fear, but that's my personal experience, because it's so much about that in a voice that, well, this Bwaam is not good enough, this track is not good enough, and everything like that. But just send it out, contact people, talk to people. Everyone feels the same. So just be brave and send it out and get some feedback back, and just be playful with it, and yeah, just and take in with the course. You also get the basic foundation of like the 3-act structure, and why that is important, and yeah, all the foundation that you need to like that's creating that foundation for you to build on later on, and be even more experimental.
Awesome advice, multi-tiered advice, some might say. Yeah, no, great, because that was the whole thing, wasn't it? You've given creative advice and business advice and mindset advice, which is, you know, the thing in Legend of Zelda, the Triforce.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, right. Let's move on to the quickfire round. Okay, yeah. So you've already answered one of these already. So this one is pretty simple. Just answer Nice and quick. Hence the quickfire round, I guess. Okay, so Simon, what's your DAW?
Ableton Live.
Awesome. What is your go-to piano library?
Noir from Native Instruments, or soft piano, but I like Noir a lot.
Go-to string library?
Cinematic Strings.
Go-to brass library?
Trailer Brass.
Who's that by?
Yeah. I'm so bad at this. Some company.
I'm sure the listeners are shouting it out.
Everyone knows it. I'm sorry, I don't know.
It's okay. I don't know either. Okay, let's move on. Go to percussion.
Strike Force and LA Modern Percussion.
Nice. Yeah. Go to synth.
Operator in Ableton, like a stock plugin, and Serum. Nice. From X-Ferro Records.
And I know this one's going to be a particularly tough one for you to answer.
Yes.
You can give me I was going to say top 3, but you can give me the top 5 if you need to. Top 3 effects plugins.
Oh, is that there's like creative effects or like mix effects or?
Yeah, both. They're one and the same, really, aren't they? Honestly.
Yeah.
So maybe give me 3 creative ones and 2 more tools.
All right. I start with the tools then. Pro Q3 Fab Filter, the EQ, awesome. And Pro MB, their multiband compressor, is awesome. I use those two on everything, I think. When it comes to the creative side, is it okay if I say Ableton as one of them? Because I use the DAW. I think I use the DAW and the stock plugins actually the most. I like just pitching down stuff in the DAW itself. Pitching it up afterwards, stretching it and stuff like that. That's like my bread and butter, I think. But then I use like the usual suspects like sound toys. But I think I use some of them in kind of different ways. Like Face Mistress is not one of those that you hear about much, but you can do some really crazy stuff if you try to break the plugin. If you just pull the input to max and the output to max, and then I use Face Mistress. I use a lot from Sound Toys, and I really got overboard with this. But okay, can I say Sound Toys as one?
Yeah, go on.
Yeah. But
so you're saying Ableton and Sound Toys?
I say that like the Face Mistress is a wonderful plugin, and then I say Little Alter Boy from Sound Toys. Their pitch shifters. I use that a lot also, and what would I say? Then I say actually this is also an X-Ferro plugin, the same do the Serum. So I use their LFO tool a lot. There's everyone in the EDM world uses to sidechain. They get the sidechain pump, but I don't use that part of it. It has like a really lovely filter section. The same filter section as you have in Serum, but you have a visual representation of what it does. And you have this really strange filter settings in this, and when you have really dense sounds, like the saxophone, it has a really complex overtone series, for example. If you compare it to like a flute has a really easy to work with overtone series. So mix engineers always hate saxophones because they're so hard to like fit in the mix. So if you start to like distort a saxophone, it just turns to mush immediately. So it's just noise almost. But if you instead of that use like comb filtering on then sound like a saxophone, for example, and you turn up the drive, so you drive the filter really, really hard and really, really hot. You get this kind of screechy sounds that I really, really enjoy, and I think that's a part of. I use that a lot, so it's part of my signature sound. So it's actually like a LFO tool, just like a step sequencer stuff thing, but I use it in another way, and it works beautiful for me.
That's awesome. You've given me like a million answers to that question.
I went overboard. I'm so sorry.
I knew 3 would be difficult.
Yeah. It's just when you start talking about it, and then you can do that, and then you can do yeah.
I know. I think the thing is, it's like, especially with effects plugins, because there's, if I'd have said your top 3 reverbs, 3 would be fine.
Absolutely.
But because you've got all of the effects, but I think all of us have like at least a handful of effects we use on almost everything.
Yeah, absolutely.
Love that. Thank you. And just to finish off, the last quickfire question: what's your number 1 piece of advice to write better trailer music?
Have fun.
Yeah.
It's kind of cliche, but I think that's, if just to sum it up, that's the main part. If you don't bother if you don't have fun. Do something that you really enjoy instead. Go swim, go surf, go with you, whatever. I mean, when I work in sales, I went overboard again, but just a quick explanation of how fun I think this is. I work in sales. I work as an insurance counselor. And I sit in the phone. I take like 40 phone calls each day and talk to customers. And each hour, so I'm starting at 8 and I finish at 5:30. Each hour, you're supposed to do 45 minutes of phone calling and then 15 minutes of administration. And that's, you can like, what I realized is that you can like do the 45 minutes rounds, you can collect them into a segment, and you can save up time during the day. So every day I carry my laptop to work, and I do like 3 or 4 sections of 45 minutes in a row, and I do all the administration while I'm talking to customers, and then I have like 1 hour of free time. That's mine. And then I during the last call, I load up the Ableton while I'm talking, and as soon as I cancel the conversation with the customer, I'm in Ableton, and I have 1 hour during my work to sit and fiddle around and try out sketching and stuff. And then 1 hour there, and then 45 minutes lunch. I eat lunch for 10 or 15 minutes, then I have half an hour there, and then I do the same thing in the afternoon. So during my work days, I can like get, not always, but 1 or 1.5 hours of sketching in Ableton on my laptop. Wow. And it's not, I'm not forcing myself to do it. I just want to do this. How can I get more time to do this? And when I realized that I did that, and it's kind of crazy when you talk about it, I realized how much fun I think this is. And then it's also easier to push yourself when you need to, and then we can. It's probably not healthy to do that over a long period of time and everything like that, but it's like a receipt that, all right, I think this is really, really fun. I will do a lot of things to be able to get some more time, free time to like produce music and create new sounds and stuff like that.
That's awesome. You're a machine, Simon.
I'm not sure, but it just I think just have fun, and if you think this is fun, just go with it. Otherwise, do something else, I think.
Yeah, wonderful advice. And on that, I think we shall come to the end of our wonderful chat. Now, if anyone wants to hear your music or get in touch to hear your music, or say how great they loved the interview, how can they get in touch with you?
I'm on Facebook. I think that's the finding my music is kind of hard because it's all hidden in some catalog. Yeah. But hit me on Facebook, or I'm on Instagram also. So I think that's the easiest way.
Awesome. Wait, thank you so much for taking your time to chat to me. I have very much enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was so much fun. I loved it, and I'm so happy to be on board and be invited for doing this. It's the nerd hour, and I love it.
I'm going to rename the podcast the Nerd Hour.
yeah. No, I loved it. It was so much fun.
Fab. Yeah, thank you so much, man. Really enjoyed it. Wow, that was such a wicked episode, and like I said, I just absolutely loved hearing about his creative process. It's really fascinating for me to not just hear people's stories, but also hear about the different ways we all approach the same thing. It's so good, and the thing I really enjoyed is Simon's focus on enjoyment, and that's one of my huge focuses as well. And I hope you guys get this message from the podcast, from my YouTube videos, from my courses. You must enjoy this. Otherwise, why are you doing it? So take that away, guys. Enjoy what you do. See you around.